Hello, I'm going to show you how to crochet this Christmas tree. So it's double-sided, it's flat, it's easy to do. You could attach a little loop to the top and turn it into something that can be hung up. So it could be like a Christmas tree ornament, or you could string a bunch of them together to turn it into like a garland. Here are the materials. So use 10 grams of green yarn with a weight of 4, a 5mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, and scissors. So this is going to be crocheted top down, starting with the base of the tree. Every time we get to a branch, I'm going to crochet out to make the branch and then reattach back to the base and keep going down. And this is reversible, so there are branches on both sides. I'm going to start by making a slip knot. And then I'm going to slide my hook into the loop, pull that off my finger, and pull tight. And then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Next I'm going to do 2 single crochet increases. So I'm going to skip the first chain, do a single crochet increase into the second chain. So basically I'm going to do 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So I'm going into the second chain. I'll do 1 single crochet. And then I'll do another single crochet into the same stitch. And I'll do the same thing in the next stitch. So that's 1 single crochet. I'm going into the same stitch again. 2 single crochets. And that's the first row. So now there should be 4 stitches. I'm going to chain 1, turn, and now I'm going to do a single crochet increase on the first stitch and a single crochet increase in the last stitch. And then the stitches in the middle will just be regular single crochets. So I'm going to skip the chain I just did, go into the first stitch, and I'll do 2 single crochets in that stitch. So that's 1, going into the same stitch again. That's 2, and then I'll do 2 regular single crochets in the next 2 stitches. And then in the last stitch, I will do a single crochet increase. So that's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and now there will be a total of 6 stitches. So to start the third row, I'm going to chain 1, turn, and then I'm going to repeat the row I just did again. So I'm going to do a single crochet increase in the first and last stitches, regular single crochets in the middle. So I'm going to skip the chain I just did, do 2 single crochets into the first stitch. That's 1, 2. Going to do regular single crochets in all the middle stitches. So there will be a total of 4 middle stitches. So that's 3 regular single crochets, 4 regular single crochets, and then in the last stitch of the row, which is the 6th stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet increase. That's 1, 2, and now there will be a total of 8 stitches in the row. To start the 4th row, I'm going to chain 1, and then turn. And this time I'm going to do single crochet back loop only down the row. So I'm going to skip the chain, go into the back loop of the first stitch. So I'm only going into one loop of the stitch. I'm going to single crochet into it like that, and then continue that down the row. Okay, so I finished that row of single crochet back loop only. If you count the stitches, there should be a total of 8. And you can see this line right here, which is created from the front loop of the last row that we just worked into. And so I'm actually going to work into these front loops for the next row. So basically what I'm going to do is go into the chain of the last row. So I'm going to go into right here and do a slip stitch. So basically the loop right before where the row starts. So here is the front loop of the stitch I just worked into. So I'm going to go into this loop instead. So I'm going to insert my hook into somewhere along the edge and do a slip stitch. And then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to be working into these loops here. Okay, so I'm going to go into the first one, which is right there. So if you count, there should be 8. And I'm going to do a single crochet into the first one. Then I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the single crochet we just did. So I'm going to insert my hook into the third stitch from the hook. So that's the single crochet right here. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull through to create a slip stitch. Okay, then I'm gonna do 2 single crochet front loop only. So 1, 2, and then I'm gonna chain 2 again, and then slip stitch into the single crochet. So the single crochet is the third stitch from the hook. And then yarn over, pull through to create a slip stitch. And just keep repeating that. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets, front loop only. And then chain 2, and then slip stitch into the single crochet. And then chain 2 single crochet, front loop only. Chain 2, slip stitch into the single crochet. And then I'll do a single crochet in the last remaining stitch. And so we just created the first line of branches. Okay, so to close this so it doesn't look as choppy, I'm gonna do a slip stitch into somewhere along the row that's not into any of the stitches of the previous row. So this is the last row that we're going to start working into again. So I'm going to do a slip stitch into the edge of it over here. Okay, now I'm going to turn, and I'm going to do a single crochet increase at the start and end of the row, regular single crochets in the middle once again. So there should be 8 stitches in this row. At the end, we'll end up with 10. So the first stitch is right here. I'm going to work 2 single crochets into it. And then single crochet down the row. Okay, so I'm on the 7th. It's helpful if you count how many stitches you're doing, because it will get a little confusing at the end of the row here where we did the slip stitch and started the branch. So I did 7 stitches, I'm on the 8th. And I'm going to do 2 single crochets into the 8th stitch. So now there will be a total of 10 stitches. Okay, so I'm now finished explaining how to make the body of the main branch, or how to make the body of the tree. So basically we started with the back of the tree, and every time we do a back loop only, and then go into the front loops of that row after, we're creating the branches of the tree. And doing this will alternate back and forth between the front and the back side branches. And you're just going to keep doing that until your tree is as big as you'd like it to be. So I'm going to show you one more time what that looks like. And then you're just going to keep repeating rows 4, 5, and 6 until the tree is as big as you'd like it to be. Okay, so I'm going to chain 1, turn, and then I'm going to do a row of single crochet back loop only down the row. And then to create the branch on the back of the tree, I'm going to crochet into the front loops of that row I just completed. Okay, now to create the branches, I'm gonna slip stitch into somewhere along the side of this row. So the first front loop stitch is this one, because that's across from the stitch where I just finished. So I'm going to slip stitch into this one. So I'm going to insert my hook into this loop and pull through and then turn. And then I'm going to start doing the single crochet, chain 2, slip stitch, 2 single crochet, chain 2, slip stitch, 2 single crochet. I'm going to start doing that down the row of front loops. So I'm going to do a single crochet in the first front loop, and then chain 2, and then I'm going to single crochet or slip stitch into the single crochet, and then 2 single crochets, chain 2, slip stitch into the single crochet, 2 single crochets, chain 2, slip stitch into the single crochet, two single crochets, chain 2, slip stitch into the single crochet, chain 2, 2 single crochets, chain 2, slip stitch into the single crochet, and then there's 1 stitch left. That will be a single crochet. Okay, and then to attach this row I just did back to the main row of the tree, I'm going to slip stitch into the edge of the row. So I'm going to slip stitch into a loop that is not part of any of the main stitches of the row. And then turn, and then I'm going to keep repeating this pattern down until the tree is as big as you'd like it to be. And so I'm going to keep going until there are 3 branches on the front of the tree, 2 branches on the back of the tree. So I now have 3 branches finished on the front and 2 branches finished on the back. And so that's as many branches as I want my Christmas tree to have. And so I'm not going to do any more increases on the tree now. I'm just going to do regular single crochets out to create the base. So I'm going to do some regular single crochets out to create this base, and then I'll create the trunk. Okay, so I just finished the branch, and I did the closing slip stitch like usual into the very edge of the row from the main body. And then I'm going to do a single crochet, regular single crochets all down this row. So if you're following exactly what I'm doing, there should be 16 stitches total in this row. But if for some reason your numbers don't exactly add up, but your tree still looks good, don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm doing single crochets down the row. So at the end of that row, I'm going to chain 1, turn, and then do single crochets back the other way. So I'm going to do 4 more rows of single crochets, and then I'll be at the base of the tree. Okay, so I finished those 2 rows of single crochet. I'm going to fasten off and then reattach the brown to create the trunk. And then I'm going to count 4 stitches from the edge and attach my yarn into the 5th stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to stick my hook into the 5th stitch and take the tail of my yarn and pull that through. And then I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to do a single crochet into that same stitch again. And then I'm going to do 7 single crochets down the row. Three, 6, 7. So there should be a total of 8 single crochets here. And that will be the beginning of the tree stump. So I'm going to single crochet, turn, and then single crochet back down the row. And I'm going to do a total of 4 rows. And then I'll fasten off. So I'm going to leave a large enough tail to be able to weave it in. And then all I have to do is weave in the ends. So if you wanted to, you could use a different, like use brown for the trunk of the tree. And if you want to, you can go back in with maybe some red or some other colors and create some ornaments along the branches or a star along the top of the tree. So I just finished weaving in the ends and that's it. So if you wanted to, you could add a loop to this to turn it into a ornament, so you could hang it, or you could add some strings along the top to turn it into a garland.